For your Math 152A class, for the first week, we are going to review what have you learned in 187 class, the basic arithmetic skills, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. For your whole numbers, integers, and fractions, and decimals. Okay? If you don't remember anything, that's fine. We are going to start all over again. So, for this section, we started from reviewing something called exponents and absolute value. Besides the basic skills, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you also have a few terms, exponents, absolute values, right? So it's better for you, by now, you need to print it out, the class notes. You have one is blank one is the one package with all the answer keys. But it's better for you to use the blank one to follow along, to write it, so you can have hands-on, so you feel better, you can connect better, okay? So for something called exponents, we will explain what do they mean. So if I write a 3, 2, you say 3, 2, 3, 2. What does that mean? So the bottom one is what? We call it base. The top one, we call it what? Exponents or the power. Then how do we say it? If you call me and say, I have this 3232 problem, I would not know what you are talking about, right? For 3 to the second power, what does that mean? It means what? 3 times 3 twice. It means 9, right? When you say it, how would you say it? You would say 3 to the second power. Then I know the 2 is on the second place, on the power place, right? Or you can say 3 squared. Then I will know what you mean. So when you use power style, it means what? You multiply itself twice, right? So if you write it this way, 2/3 means what? You multiply itself twice, which is 8. It's just shorthand writing of what? Multiplication. How would you describe this one? You would say 2 to the what? 3rd power, or you can say 2 cubed, right? So your exponent expression, we call it exponential expression. All those things we express with what? Exponential form. So exponential expression means what? You have exponent in it. So in algebra, we are going to talk about is bunch expression. That's algebra's language, okay? To express with numbers, with variables. Later on, you are going to learn that. Okay, if you look at this, 0.2 to the 4th power. For exponents, you use same way. It means what? 0.2 times itself, how many times? 4 times, right? How do you multiply your decimals? 2, 2, 2, 2, you multiply together will be 16. However, how many decimals do you need? Decimal points do you need? You have 1 here, 1, 1, 1, total 4. So you need to have 4 decimal places. You count from right hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's your new decimal places, decimal point, right? 4 places. So what happened to empty space? You put a 0 there. Remember your decimals? Same thing, we apply the power to the fraction. We can do it with fractions as well, right? What does that mean? It means it multiplies itself 3 times. How do you multiply your fractions? Multiply straight cross, right? 2, 2, 2, don't give me 6, that's 8. 5, 5, 5, multiply together, 125. So that's how you do it, right? So besides we review the basic skills, add, subtract, multiply, divide, we encounter something called absolute values, okay? Besides the exponents, we try to figure out what is an absolute value. So, absolute value, you use this sign, 2 bars. You put a number in between. Absolute value 7 is what? 7. Absolute negative 7 is what? Still 7. So what are we talking about? We are talking about, if you have a line, this is a 0, 7 will be on the right hand side. All the positive, 1, 2, 3, 4, you go right. And negative, you go left. Negative 1, negative 2, all the way, right? So the bar means what? 2 bars means what's the distance between the number and the 0. So how far? There is 7 units, right? From negative, it's still 7 units. So the distance always what? Positive. We don't describe distance with negative, right? So formally we do this way. We are learning algebra now, we use x. X is a letter, right? Letters mean numbers. We put a 2 bar there. What are we talking about? This symbol. It means what? The distance, right? Between x and 0 on the number line. Number line is this line we are talking about. We put a number there, right? So if distance 5 to 0, that would be 5. Negative 5 to 0, still 5, right? Absolute value of 0, that would be what? What's the difference between 0 and 0? Nothing. 0. Okay? So we introduced the concept of the absolute values. Let's review some addition and subtraction. So for addition and subtraction, 5 plus 3, you know it's what? 8, right? What do you think? Negative 5 plus negative 3, that would be, okay? So you look at this way, and that's your 0, right? 5, you are here. So positive, you go left, go to the right. Negative, you go to the left. So 5, you go to here, 5. Then you go right, 3 again, right? So you end up here on the right. If you go left, negative 5 means what? You go left 5 steps, right? Negative 5. Plus negative 3, you go here. Where are you? End up. That will be negative 8. 5 plus negative 3. What do you think? Positive, you go to the right. So you go to right 5 steps. Then minus negative 3, you go where? Left 3 steps. So you end up on the right or on the left. Still on the right hand side of 0, right? So it will be what? Positive 2. If you have negative 5 plus 3, so how do you do? So you go left 5 steps, right? Then you go right from there to 3 steps. Where are you end up? You end up here on the left hand side. So you are negative 2. Right? So the number, each number has a sign to go with it. Only first number, if it's positive, we don't write a sign there. So what happens is, if you always go to the right, you end up on the right, positive. If you always go to the left, you end up on the left, end up negative. If you go right and left, if you go right more, right, you end up on the right hand side. If you go left more, you end up on the left side. So the way to think about it is, if you add the same signs, right, you end up same sign, positive, positive, negative, negative. If you have different signs, you might end up positive or negative. It depends. You do more right steps or you do more left steps, right? So we say, okay, same signs, right? You add, then keep the sign. And if they are different, okay, different signs, you find a difference. How many steps difference on the right and left? 5 and 3, difference is 2. 5 and 3, difference is 2. But which sign you are going to use? It depends, right? If the larger number, you go right more, you end up on right, positive. If you go left more negative, you end up on the left, negative, right? So if different signs, what do? You subtract them. Then you keep the sign of the larger number. Then you'll be okay, right? So the rule we are talking about is what? For the value, how many steps you make, right? So you add the what? You add their absolute value. You just look at the steps, how many steps there are, right? Then you will keep the common sign. If both are same signs, and you just combine them, then keep the common sign, right? If different, two different signs, then you will what? Subtract the smaller number, right? Smaller steps, smaller absolute value, we say, from what? The larger one, right? Then what do? Then we use which sign? Depends. Then you will use the sign of number what? With larger one, right? Larger absolute value. Larger value. Is that right? So that's how you add. With opposite signs, positive or negative numbers, right? So let's look some examples. So 3 plus negative 13. So what do you think? different signs, you find the difference, which is between 3 and 13, right? You only can take away from 3 smaller number from larger number. You can only do that. You cannot put a smaller number on the top, right? So that's 10. However, there are different signs, then you need to choose positive or negative, because negative is the larger number, so you use that sign. If you have absolute value, what will happen? That's the group by itself. What is absolute value of 7, negative 7? That will be 7. So you end up actually, this means what? Positive number. So you put it together. Both are the same sign with positive number. You would do that, right? So positive and negative are opposite side of things. So let's talk about opposite concept, right? What do you think? Naturally, then what's the opposite of 3? You will think about which will be what? Negative 3, right? Opposite of negative 11, that would be 11, right? Same thing for the fraction. What's the opposite of 2/3? That will be negative of it. Same thing for the decimal. What do you think? Opposite of negative 4.6? That will be 4.6. What do you think opposite of 0? That would be 0. The characteristic of the opposite means they have go different side, right? So we say, what are opposites? Opposites are, you have the number which is equal value. That means equal distance from 0, right? On both sides, on the number line. Opposite side of the 0, right, would be opposite side. So it has such characteristics. And if the number plus its opposite, that will be what? It will neutralize, right? It will be neutralized. So you will end up 0 as 0. Good? Let's see some examples on subtraction. We did addition, right? So same sign, you keep the same sign, you combine the number, different signs, you find the difference, then keep the sign of the larger number, right? Now let's see, that's addition. Now let's see subtraction. We are on the page 2. So say 5 minus 1. You know it's what? 4, right? Each number has a sign right in front of it. So the sign goes with the number behind it, belongs to the number behind it. Only the first number, if it is positive, we don't use sign. So it means what? First number is positive 5. Second number is what? Actually, it's a negative 1. We are going to put them together. So put it together means plus. If I do that, 5 plus negative 1, difference, what is that? Same thing as 4, right? You can think this way. When you do subtraction, you get confused. You can think individually, then combine them together. So if you have negative 8, negative minus negative 3, when you have this situation, negative and negative, what do? Okay, 2 negative together, you will do what? Change. Easier, just do that. So if you do change, that will be what? Plus 3. So it will be negative 8 plus 3. What do you think? different numbers, find the difference. 8 and 3 is 5. Then decide your sign, which is larger one is negative. That's how you do. Okay? Don't worry about the rules for subtraction. Just do those things. You'll be fine. If 1 minus 6, what does that mean? It means first number is 1, second number is a negative 6, right? You are going to combine them. Then, what do we have? Difference, 6 and 1 is 5. The sign will be what? Negative, right? For this one, 1 minus negative 6. So you do change. That would be 1 plus 6. That would be 7. How about this one? First number means what? Negative 7. Second number means what? Negative 4. You are going to put them together, right? Same signs, combine them, 11. The result, you should have positive or negative, use the sign, right? How about this one? Minus negative, change. So it's plus 4, right? First number is negative 7. What do you think? Different signs, find the difference. 7 and 4, that would be 3. Then you use the sign of a larger number, 7, which is negative. Good? Let's look some more examples. Just bunch numbers. You do it one at a time, right? Each one, usually, we just have sign by itself, then we combine them, right? So, if we have a negative, we do what? Change. So that would be this. So that would be those, right? Then what do? We put them together, one at a time. Negative 6 plus 8, difference, positive, big number, right? 2 plus 6 is what? 2 plus 4 is 6, right? Then 6 plus negative 11, minus 11 means what? Plus negative 11, right? Which would be difference, negative 5. Got it? So negative 5 is your answer. All right. Number 2. If I have a 5 squared minus 20 plus negative 11 minus negative 3. So you have numbers within numbers, right? Within the part with the group. So you will do it from inside to outside. This is the group. You will do that group first. So minus negative 11 means what? Change. It becomes what? Negative 11 plus 3, right? Then what is your negative 11 plus 3? Different signs. Find the difference, which is 8. Then the sign will be what? Negative, right? So rewrite it, right? Then what do? you do the exponents first. Repeat the multiplication by itself. Do it first. 5 squared is what? Twice 25 minus 20 plus 8, right? So then do it from left to right. 25 minus 20, 5. Then 5 plus, negative 8, right? Different sign. Find the difference. 5 and 8 would be 3. With a larger sign, so you should have negative 3. Are we good? So let's look next one. It says find the distance between point A and point B. So if that's the C, right? So when it's up there, say 78 feet. Paragliding. Okay. Another person just started not too long. B at the position 24 feet. What do you think? How much difference? How much distance between them two? Right? So what would you do? Find the difference. Find the difference of 2. So you will do subtraction. That will end up what? 54 feet. Right? You do subtraction to find the distance. Right? Then what happens if one person is up there 78 feet? Right? However, another person is doing the scuba diving, right? It's underneath 24 feet. So what do you think? The distance between them two. One is above, one is below. You will think, okay, I'm going to add them together. That would be what? 1 or 2 feet. But we say find the distance would be one minus another, right? So if I do 78 minus another, but another person is not above positive, actually it's below, opposite. So we will use the different sign for the opposite position. If it's below, will be negative 24 feet, right? If you do that, because find the distance, we always use subtract, but you have to specify the position, right? So that would be what? Minus, change, you end up 78 plus 24, it will be what? 1, 2, 4. Just a different way of doing it, okay? One is with the sign, then one with just by looking the picture with your thinking to do it directly. If we do it mathematically, we will find the difference, find the distance with the right position. Now let's review multiplications and division, okay? So for multiplication and divisions, we say positive times positive, same sign, positive. Negative times negative is positive, right? Positive times negative is negative. Negative times positive is what? Negative. Same thing for the division. Same sign, it's positive, negative and negative. Same sign, it's positive. Different sign is negative, right? To help you remember, we say a positive thing happened to a positive person. It's a positive, right? A negative thing happens to a negative person. Oh, it's a good thing, right? Oh well. Okay? If a positive thing happened to a negative person, oh, it's a bad thing. And a negative thing happens to a positive person, it's a bad thing. So help you to remember. So we say, okay, Same sign, multiply or divide, you end up a positive. Different signs, then you end up differently, right? Negative. It's different from your addition and subtraction. Look your right hand side. We are on the page 3, right? Even number of negative sign in the problem. So it means what? If I have -1 times twice, what do I have? +1, right? Negative times negative is positive. What happened? Don't give me 2, it's 1, right? 1 times 1 is 1. So this one, 2 of them is a positive. Positive times negative, you end up a -1, right? So if -1 times -1 times -1 times -1, that would be what? Positive, negative times negative, positive, positive times negative, negative, negative times negative, positive, become positive. That's what we were saying here on the right hand side. Even number, if 2 or 4, even number of negative signs in the problem, you end up a positive. Odd number of negative signs in a problem, you end up what? Negative. Okay? And let's take a look. Next one. Often you make a mistake. You need to pay attention to those. So, if I have a -5 squared, what's my power? Power 2. Multiply by its base. How many times? Twice. What's the base? -5. So -5 multiply itself twice. You need to multiply itself twice. Which will be positive or negative? Even number, positive 25. Okay? Then you will mingle with next situation. What does this one mean? It means what? The power applies to what? The number right in front of it. And negative is outside of it. So it will attach to the number afterwards. So you will do 5 squared first, which is what? 25. Then you attach to negative with it. That will be -25. You will make a mistake between these two often. So you need to pay attention to that. Okay? So if I have this one, what do you think? -2 squared? That would be -2 times -2. That would be +4. Okay? If you have -2 squared, that means you do 2 squared first. That would be 4. That would be -4. Right? So, sometimes we write in fraction like this. What does the line mean? Fraction. It means what? Division. Right? So 12 divided by 4, then you attach the sign for it. That would be -3. Right? So if you have -12 divided by 4, negative divided by positive is what? Negative. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. Right? Or if you write 12 divided by -4, positive divided by negative, 12 divided by 4 is 3. They all have the same answers, but you write it differently, right? You can put the negative outside, end up this way. Negative on the top, end up this way. Negative on the bottom, you end up the same answers. Different way of writing. Okay? And so in general, we have what? If I have we use the abstract symbol. A and B mean what? Numbers. Letters mean numbers, right? That means what? Is that same thing you put on the top right? Or it's the same thing you put on the bottom, right? So your negative can be on the side, on the top, on the bottom. They all mean the same thing. However, we write it this way, okay? Then not this way. Usually, we just write it this way, right? Not the negative on the bottom, because we reserve the bottom for LCD later. And we always use the positive number for LCD. They all mean the same way. If the negative is on the bottom, we either move to the top or move to the side. If you write the negative on the bottom for your homework, the computer will reject it. That's not the way we write. Okay? So let's see more division. If I have negative 12 divided by negative 4, negative divided by negative, what do we have? Positive 3, right? If we write it this way, negative 12, negative 4, what do? You do the division first, 3, then attach your sign to the number. That would be the answer. Okay, let's take a look. Page 3. We are on the page 3. And next portion, which is division with 0. Right? So we say if we have A divided by 2 is what? 4. Right? But how do we know it's right? Because if you check 4 times 2 is what? 8. So division is opposite of the what? Multiplication. Right? So if we have 0 divided by 8, which is 0, because when we multiply them back, 0 times 8, then we can get back to the number. Then take a look. Next one, A divided by 0. What do you think? Anything, any number, right? Any number divided by 0 would be 0. We never get back to 8, right? So it doesn't work. So we say it doesn't exist or undefined. It's not possible. Also, you can think this way. If I have $0 and $0 separate, give to a person, each person can get $0. If I have $8 to give 0 person, each person will get how much? It doesn't make sense, right? Because you give to 0 person. So we cannot use what? 0 as a divisor, right? So you always will remember, you cannot use 0 as what? A denominator. We say top one is dividend, right? The things to be split. The bottom one is what? Divisor. The things is doing the dividing. Then the result of the division we'll call it what? Quotient, right? So, or top we say is what? Numerator. The bottom is called denominator. So you need to remember, and 0 cannot be the denominator or the divisor. So on the test, if I ask you 0 divided by 7, you should have what kind of answer? 0, right? If 7 divided by 0, what should you answer? You should answer doesn't exist or undefined. just in case you don't remember. So we wrote a poem for you. Hopefully it helps, right? To help you to remember. So it says, there once was a lonely old miser who recklessly used 0 for a divisor. He took a long fall and then ran into a wall. His approach was not rewarding at all. But this story ends cheerfully. Our chap started listening to his friends quite carefully. Quite earfully. Now he's known far and wide as the wiser miser because he knows better than to use 0 for a divisor. So I will remind you often, say what? Be a wiser miser, don't use the 0 as a divisor, right? Now let's take a look next part. Next one, we start to talk about algebra. Okay, so math is using algebra to do certain thing. And what kind of things we call algebra, right? So algebra actually is a language, math language, and to express some ideas. So we start from here. We say, okay, what is an algebra expression? So math use expression to express the idea. Okay? So then we tell you what kind of things we call algebraic expression. Okay? So algebraic expression is what? A collection, bunch of things, right? Of what? What kind of things you usually see in algebra? Numbers, right? And what? Operation symbols. And group symbols. What kind of things we call operation symbol? You used it before, right? Quite often. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide, things like that, right? What kind of things we call them group symbols? We put a group together, like parentheses means they group together, or bracket, or curly bracket, or even fractions. This symbol dividing means what? It split top and bottom to different groups, right? Okay, so we express the math idea with what? Expression. So that's a math language. Okay, we call it math language. Another math language we use is what? Equal sign. Do you see equal sign in math all the time? Right? That's another language. Either by expression or by the equal sign. Equal sign is what? We say it's called a math statement. In which two expressions are equal, right? Equal sign must be what? Two sides are balanced. They are the same. Then we say what? You show an idea by expression. Then you show two ideas are the same by what? Making the statement. Okay, use the equal sign. That's the math language we are using. So first we differentiate them, then we will map from our ordinary language, from English to math. That's what we will do, okay? So first we identify them, and if I have a 3y, what do you think? You express, right? 3y means 3 times what? Variable letters mean numbers, right? Or just a single number, it's an expression as well. It's a bunch of collection of things. Or you can say, oh, I have this, or even with power, right? It's a math notation, then we'll put it together and become an expression. Or even say division, right? If we write it this way, I write a 5x equals 8. So you get used to the abstract idea, abstract symbols, x, y, z for algebra. So what do you think? First one is, you have an equal sign, it's equation. Second one is expression. So what's the difference between expressions and equations? One has what? Equal sign. And for equations, you have 2 expressions. Then you are making a statement, say, oh, these 2 expressions are the same. Okay? That's the math language we are using. We are either using what? Expression or equations. Let's look at the B. Take a look. First one is what? Second one is what? Second one, you have equation. Then equal sign. So it's equation, right? First one will be expression. Right? Another language we use is this way. Okay? So sometimes we say to evaluate an expression, to evaluate. Sometimes we usually ask you to evaluate. Evaluate. Right? Or we find the what? Solution. To solve. What's the difference? Actually, often all you need to do is to what? Find numbers, the answer, right? But we usually use evaluate for what? Algebraic expression. To solve means what? Solve equation. That's just the terms we usually use. Because expression you cannot solve, right? You can only express. Then you evaluate the situation. If it's equation, you make a statement. That means you must have something to support your statement. Then certain numbers will work, certain numbers will not work. So we solve it to make the statement become true. That's the difference. But when you see it, what do? Oh, you just find the answer, right? Some kind of numbers, always, when we try to solve it. All right. So let's see some examples. If we have this, if I say x is 1, y is 4, that means I give you those values. You are going to use those values. X equals 1 means what? X is 1, not anything else at this moment, right? So we say evaluate what you have, how much you worth. So what do? All you need to just plug in. But when you plug in, it's better, it's a good practice. You put a parenthesis around your variable. Just in case you have negative number, when you put in, you will take care of the sign better. So that would be what? Y is 4, you plug in 4 for y. X is what? 1, right? 2 times 4, a minus 1, you have 7. Okay. Take a look at the second one. Y squared minus x squared. So, remember to put your parentheses around, right? So when you plug in, for this one, all positive, it doesn't make any difference. But when it's negative, it will make difference, right? So 4 squared is what? 16. 1 squared, 1. So you find your answer 15, this one. Let's look at the next one. Determine whether a number is a solution to an equation. We say, is x equal 3 a solution to 5x minus 10 equals x plus 2? What is asking? What do you think? We have equation, right? They have to be equivalent on two sides. So we say x is 3 equals 3 is a solution for this equation. It means what? The 3 work for the condition, right? So what do? You plug in 3 for x. Then check, right? So 5 times 3, 15. 15 minus 10 is what? 5. How about this side? 3 plus 2 is what? 5. Are they equal? Yes. If it makes this statement true, that means it works. Then x equals 3 is the answer for the equation, right? So then we call it it's a solution for the equation. So let's look at the facts. It says, what's the difference between equations and statements? Two different major languages in math, right? So, equation you must have what? Equal sign, obviously, right? The expression, it does not, right? Then we use the language, we say we evaluate the expressions, then we solve equations. That's just the language we use on math for doing things, right? Let's see. So mainly for math, with bunch numbers, collection of numbers, symbols, right? Operation symbols and group symbols. So mainly we do what? Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We also use equal sign. So when we try to solve problems are all written in English, right? For you. So what do? We have to change the English to what? Math language. So we can resolve it that way. So when you see the sum like that, what do you need to do? You add. Certain condition you add, certain condition, you subtract, right? Then if it says plus, then you add it. If you say add 2, you will add it, right? If it says increased by, you will add those numbers. Then if it says total, then you will just put them together, right? Add them. So when do we use subtraction? When you see the problem says, oh, find the difference of these two numbers, then you subtract them. Or minus, you will do that. Or subtract from, you will also do subtraction. Or it says, oh, this number is less than another number. You will do what? Subtraction. Right? When do you multiply? When it says, find the product of two numbers. So, when you add the two numbers, we say what? It's the sum. When you find subtract two numbers, we say what? Difference. Right? The result of addition is the sum. Result of subtraction is difference. Result of multiplication, we say is what? A product. If the result of division, we say is what? Quotient. So those are math language we use. Then you need to know what do they mean. Then you can apply the operation on it, right? So when we say find the product of two numbers, you will multiply. Or find 5 times of this number, you will multiply, right? Then we say, oh, tries triple, you will do that. One special thing you will do is what? We say off. Find half of, say, $10, then you $10 divided by 2. Or you multiply by half. You need to get used to off. That's the one you need to learn. And for division, when do you use division? When you say, oh, find the quotient, right? Or you divided these two numbers, or you divided things into certain things, or you say find the ratio, right? Then you divide. So if you have $10, I have $2, then what's our ratio? It means what? Comparison. 10 divided by 2. So you do division, right? Also divided by, you do division. When do we do equal? When do we use equal? Then we say, oh, find the what? Equivalence. Then you use equal sign. Or say, oh, this one gives that one. So you use equal sign, right? Or say, oh, it is. This is that. Then you use equal sign, right? Say x is 5. Then you use equal sign, right? So that's the symbols we use. Then that's how we translate the English to what? Math language, right? So let's take a look. Next one, it's on your page 5, okay? So write an algebraic expression that represents each phrase, right? So first one, it says the product of a number and 5. So what does product mean? Multiplication. So a number, you can use x or use n, means a number. Product, you multiply them together. Second one, it says the number add to 7. Add to, so you use add, right? A number add to 7. That's how you do. Third one, it says 3 times a number. Time means what? A multiplication. So 3 times a number. So if you have two symbols putting together without anything in between, it means what? Multiplication. Okay? Next one. a number subtract from 8. That's English. If you write n minus 8, that means what? A subtract from n. But this one is saying what? This one is saying a number subtract from 8. So you need to write n, 8 minus n, right? Next one. Twice a number plus 1. So what is twice a number? Twice a number, right? Plus 1. Add 1 to it. Next one. 3/4 of a number. Remember, of means what? Part of. We will use multiplication. That's the one you need to learn. So that's the number. We do what? 3/4 of it. So we will multiply 3/4 like that. Okay, next one. 3 less than a number. So 3 less than. So it's 3 less than that number. So take away 3 from that number. That's how we do. Next one, a number less 3. Less is your verb. So a number less 3. That's what we do, right? Next one, a number subtract 3. This number subtract 3. Right? They all look alike. But the language, English, is so different. But when we translate to math, it looks like that. And next one, a number subtract from 3. Subtract from, so number subtract from 3. Okay, this one is obvious. But the rest of 3, they are all the same, but the languages are so different. We are not going to test you on those, but just show you how it works out. Okay, we are doing math, not English. But on your problem, you should be able to see it. It's quite clear if you know what they are asking. Let's take a look. Next one. On your page 6. Let's translate all the English to algebra, okay, to math language. It says, first one, 3 times a number subtract 10. 3 times a number times means what? Multiplication, subtract 10. So you will minus 10. Second one, 3 times a number subtract from. So 3 times a number subtract from 10, right? Next one, subtract 2m plus 6 from 6m minus 1. So you will have 2m plus what? 6, right? Subtract from, so you put the from one out the front. From what? 2m minus 6. If you write it this way, you say, oh, okay, I'm going to subtract this. It will not be right. Why? Because the whole thing will be subtract from. You need to put the parentheses into it. It makes the whole difference, you know. You will find out pretty soon. But for the moment, it's from the whole thing. You need to put the group symbol for it, okay? Next one, trace the number or trace the sum of a number and 11. So trace the sum, right? You need to do the sum first, which is what? N and 11. Number and 11. Then you trace. You do trace. You don't just write this one, you do trace, which is not right. This one means what? You only do trace the number. Then you plus 11, separate. This one means what? You trice the number and 11. Both will be triced. Okay? Just like you say, I have 2 apples and 3 pears, right? I double it. What should I have? I should have 4 apples and 6 pears. So when you double it, you have to double the whole thing. If you just write double this, right? Pears, then you end up what? 4 apples and 3 pears only. You didn't double the pears. So when you double it, depending on the situation, you need to put the parenthesis in. Next one, 2/3 of a number. Oops, I missed something. Okay, that's the 5. The 4 is what? Trice the sum of trice a number and 11. The sum of trice a number and 11. So you do trice the number, right? Then do the sum with 11. That's how you write. They are very different. Got it? Next one. 2/3 of a number. We say of means what? You do multiplication. So 2/3 of a number, you just multiply them. Next one. 4 times the difference of a number and 8. 4 times what? The difference. So you have to do the difference first. A number and 8. So the number and 8, you do the difference. Then 4 times of it. So you have to multiply 4 times for the whole thing. So you need to have parentheses around it. Next one. The difference of 4 times a number and 8. So we want to find the difference, right? So you subtract. Difference of what? 4 times the number and the 8. So you do 4 times the number and the 8. So you find the difference. That's how you translate all the what? From English to math, right? Translation. So we have to start here before we do any word problems. Words are in English for us, right? But we do math. That means we have to write a certain math language. Next part, we see. All those are what? Expressions. So next one, we will see some equations. First one, we say the difference of 3 and the number is 18. So what is the difference of 3 and the number? So 3 and number, the difference, you use subtraction. Then it says is. Is means what? Equal 18. That's what it's saying. Next one. Trice a number decreased by 1 is not equal to 99. Trice a number decreased by 1. So trice a number decreased by 1 minus 1. Not equal to 99. Not equal. Which symbol we use not equal? We use this symbol. Not equal. This way. Next one. The quotient of trice a number and 6 is greater than 5. Quotient means what? Divide, right? Dividing, so you are dividing what? Trice a number and 6. What is trice a number? You do trice a number means multiplying, and 6, you do the quotient, dividing each other. Is greater than 5. Greater than 5. That's your symbol. Greater than. So this one is what? greater than, right? Then this one, if you have equal there, so that means what? Greater than or what? Equal to, right? Then if you use this sign, it means what? Less than. If you use this sign, that means what? Less than or what? Equal to, right? Let's look at the next one. It says 6 times 4 is less than or equal to triple a number decreased by 1. We say something something is less than or equal to, right? So first one say 6 times 4. What is 6 times 4? Just 6 times 4, right? Less than or equal to what? Triple a number decreased by 1. How do you do triple a number? Triple means what? You multiply 3 to the number, triple the number, decrease by 1, minus 1. So that would be for your section 1.3, 1.4. You need to practice and do your homework. That will be due next week. Be sure you keep up. If you don't keep up for your homework, usually you don't make it. Okay?